This episode has been brought to you from the DGMS studios, home of Don't Get Me Started, Lethal and Mully Live and Surftown. Found at Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music and wherever you listen to your podcast. Welcome to Lethal and Mully Live, the podcast where we look into the wild, the weird and the wonderful. I'm Lethal.
And I'm Mully. Together, we're your guides through the chaotic universe of pop culture, current affairs, interviews, and everything in between.
Each week, we'll bring you the hottest topics, the craziest stories, and interesting guests. We have debates, laughter, and maybe a few surprises along the way.
Whether you're tuning in from your car, your couch, or wherever you get your podcast fix, we are here to entertain, inform, and keep you company.
So grab your favourite snack, settle in, and get ready for a wild ride. It's time to get lethal. And remember, stay curious and keep it real.
Welcome to Lethal and Mully Live, where today my guest is Angela Van Boxtel. Angela describes herself as an environmental designer, photographer, bohemian, ocean lover, and founder of Waste to Design. Angela is a lady who loves colour. She likes to be a free spirit, who likes to get out and enjoy life to the max and express herself. So it's good that you're here talking with us in this. Angela, how are you today?
I'm very well, Keith. Thank you for having me.
Did you think that the description in my introduction was a fair representation of who you are?
Except ocean, I think nature lover, anything nature.
Anything to do with nature. That would probably be why you are an environmental designer.
Yes. Well, it was only really when I came to Australia that I got into that direction.
Can you tell me a little bit more about it exactly?
I was in technology, digital media, design. I have a degree in media and communications. On the northern beaches in Sydney, we have one of the largest amount of environmental group. And then one day ago, a photographer who had started the Two Hands project, you know, using your two hands, to picking up rubbish and posting pictures about that. They became very, very big. She said, I have all these bottle caps and I can't do nothing with them because we only pick up waste from the beach. And she was really desperate. She was like, we have to do something. We have to do something on the issue of plastic pollution. And then she said, can I bring them to you? And I was like, okay. So then this bag came and it was I think 1 by 3 meter, and they were all collected from coffee shops, bottle caps. So you can't recycle them. There's lots of confusion about that. People think you can recycle bottle caps. It's a very dark area. And then I just looked at them for a long time, and then I started making art with them. I approached Body, Mind and Spirit Festival. They said yes. So I did a big mural there, all made mandala patterns from it, and that's how it started a bit.
So you really enjoy making something beautiful out of something that's wasteful and ugly?
I don't call it waste, even if my website said Waste to Design, which is... I used to go trade under my name Angela Van Boxtel, but I let my name lapse. And then because I used to write a blog called Green with MVIDs, and it became really, really big and drove lots of traffic. And I let my name lapse, and immediately 2 days later, somebody else snapped it up. I was like, I lost my name for, already 7 years. So and then I was like, okay, I have a new name. And then Waste to Design wasn't taken. And then that just started all to happen then. So then I picked that as a name.
Well, they say the highest form of flattery is imitation, so you must have been effective in what you were doing.
Very effective, but it's extremely annoying because of many of the blog posts or older images is still angelavanboxtel.com, and for a while it led to a foreign website, and I think it's a really crazy times we're living in that I can't even get my own name back, This is me, Angela Van Boxtel, but I don't have my name. But yeah, I have Waste to Design, and I think if I want to go in another direction, it's still a very valuable name. So, yeah.
So when you say you've lost your name, Angela Van Boxtel, does that mean that they're using it in a commercial sense?
Yes. It was used in a commercial sense. I will not name the country where it's from because that's not important. And now it's just in holding. It's somebody has it in holding and I can buy it back, but I refuse whatever to go even in that. So I hope I don't drive traffic to that anymore. So I hope that eventually that will and then I will get my name back. And otherwise, then it's a nice story.
Well, that quote that I just said about the highest form of flattery is imitation really doesn't seem to apply here. It seems like it was just an ugly, naked commercial grab. Just get her name and let's just get some money out of it. And if she wants, she has to pay for it.
Yeah, because no, it wasn't like that. They just knew whatever they put on there, even if it was foreign product or whatsoever, because of the blog, it was still driving traffic to there. So people still would click on all these links. I'm very smart in how to do that. So it still would get the traffic there. So it wasn't like an ugly grab or this is targeted at Angela. I don't even know these people. They just look, okay, this has lots of traffic. So that's valuable because of that.
So you're talking about your art that you had created. You'd put it up onto a website under your name, and that
was under my name. Yeah, so I lost angelavanboxtel.com, but I wrote a blog, and you still can read. There's like the whole world is on there. It's called Green with Envy IDs blogspot, and there's everything on there. All the projects I ever did, I just wrote. It was even nominated, for the bloggers of Australia, and because it was just all about giving people ideas on how to live more sustainable. My love for the environment, but also my projects in the community, a bit like what I do at Instagram now with the Reels. So, and it goes in the same direction. It's the Reels are really going in a nice number. So I go like, I know I have the skills. So, but actually yesterday I have my name verified. You can now have your name verified. And I was like, because I never ever want to go there again.
So
it has a tick now, a blue tick on Instagram. I'm officially Angela Van Boxtel.
So calling yourself an environmental designer, you would basically think of yourself as an artist. And you're finding in the digital world, that's where you can express your art.
No, I find that in the digital world that I have a way myself to promote my art. My art also, like when I was living on the northern beaches, I had like this whole, because I have the background in media and communications, I say I wasn't the best artist, but I was the best communicator. If I have an idea, I know how to present that and get people on board. So any project I did, the media just would write about that. The beauty now is like with Reels or whatsoever, you don't need any of that anymore, can do all that by yourself. So for me, that's just like a channel to get across what you're actually doing.
Your blog, your Reels, your Instagram posts, the photos that you pop up on the net are all very stylistic, very colourful. That in itself is an art or an expression of art.
Yes, yeah. My first main art was always photography, and I just see that. We just get born with that. I see that with my kids who have that eye. They just know when it's a good photo. Sometimes I give people a camera and say, take a photo of us as a family. You see people in the corner of your feet. I go like, it's really not that difficult. But it is an art. And I have always, when I started photography in black and white, in traditional sense, became of a group of people in Amsterdam. And I said, I don't really like black and white because I think in color. And in those days, these photographers said to me, you're going to be lucky because the newspapers soon will be changing to color. Because in those days, all the photos were still in black and white. And then it changed. And then I was like, okay, so yeah, it's a different way.
You do have an accent, and you've just mentioned Amsterdam, so that's where you're from?
I'm from the Netherlands. I grew up on a small village in the southern part of the Netherlands. I grew up on a farm. I studied in Nijmegen, which is close to the German border, and I lived 10 years in Amsterdam before I moved to Sydney.
Now, you've also described yourself as a bohemian, which is a free-spirited person who doesn't seem to have any boundaries or any ties. How would that fit in with your early life?
No ties. I don't entirely agree on that because then you step over values and all of that. I think I have very strong values. Bohemian, I mean more like a more free way of living, more artistic way of living. When I was growing up, there was no art. I grew up on a farm. We had 2 books. One was the yearbook of 1963, the year my parents married, and the other one was the Bible. And then my mom had a collection of black and white fashion magazines because she was a sewer. And that was it. That was all you had. And a very religious Catholic community.
Which sounds exact opposite to being a bohemian or a free spirit of some sort. I'd imagine quite conservative. Was it a Dutch Protestant religion in your home?
No, Catholic.
But still conservative?
conservative. I didn't know that word. Just your whole framework is religion, You just go from the moment I grew up, weekend is you go to church. My first career was in the church choir. I was like, okay, I better go in the choir because then I can sit on front on the stage and then you can watch the people then actually sit in the back and I just hated that, like watching all the back of people. I would like to observe people. So in the choir, but then one time I remember I already dressed a bit different. I would make my own clothes. And in those days, it was still like women had to wear dresses and we had nuns. So the conductor was a nun. And then she said, yeah, you're allowed to wear pants, but not pants like Angela. And I was like, okay, that's a bit bullying. And then the other time I was like, okay, we had to go to the communion on the stage and then the priest. And then somehow, because I'm a very, I find it hard to sit still. So I dropped my hostie, so we call the holy bread, and it fell and it actually went under the dress of the priest. And for me the right thing to do, I'm a young girl, is actually go and pick it up. Oh my God, that was so wrong. But yeah, that was the whole framework. In school, everywhere, it was just not nice.
So the nun said you can wear pants, but not pants like Angela.
Yeah.
What was wrong with your pants?
Well, because I made them myself. My mom made all her clothes. When I didn't like her clothes anymore, then I started making them myself. So they were just with elastic, cotton, and I already made the little leg warmers there. In those days we used to wear, when the bomb was falling anytime, we used to go back to wearing the clogs and, the little the gun of Amnesty International and all of that. But I would just wear these pants, not with that, but it was just, I think I was already different, sort of, but not that I even realized that. Maybe she saw that, I don't know.
So it had your own stamp of individuality and flair.
Yes, yeah, and I didn't really realize that, Keith. If I see the year 6 school photo from graduation in high school, everybody's wearing clothes, and there I am in my pink pants, which I sewn. I had wearing a shirt of these old, what grandpas wear, like just a white hemmed shirt. And then I had somehow stamped purple dots on there, and then a t-shirt underneath. And I was like, okay. I just did not realize. I just found a way to express myself. For me, we did not have money to buy clothes. We got either clothes from Catholic. We all had big families. There was this family, they had 13 kids, and then all the clothes would come. And my mom would say, okay, you pick your clothes from here. And I was like, we all would look like, wow, these are hairy high pants. I'm not going to do that. But you had to make something. So I often would mix then from my girls' friends who had more fashionable clothes. They also would be given to me, and then I would make my own mixture with things I made. And
growing up in a stern, strict, conservative environment and being a strong individual with a flair to be a little bit free-spirited sounds like they might be mutually exclusive, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. You can be deeply influenced by both different streams there. Did you have any conflicts within yourself trying to work out who you were and where you fitted in with that whole background that you grew up in?
Well, I think I found the religion very hard because I think I don't adhere to, and for me, my religion was nature, always has been. And I remember when I became 14 years old, then I did not want to go to church anymore, and that really created conflict with my mom. So I refused to go, and then she was like, okay, if you don't go, then you don't have to eat at home anymore because that's what we do as family. I was like, okay, then I don't eat at home. So it was very, very confronting, created lots of conflict. But in a way, for me, it was very good the way I look back at it, because I learned from a very young age to create my own voice and stand up for what I believed in. And now, this many years later, I go back to my village. All these churches are sitting empty. And I go yeah, so there I was, thinking ahead, being a visionary, being punished for what now everybody was doing. It's just the hardest thing, I think, is being different, because you get judged. These villages are still the same. time, 3,000 people was then. 50 years later, they still have like 600 people more. There's still no migration in there. It's still very limited.
There's no reason why you can't take the best of both of those ways of looking at life or expressing yourself. Being free-spirited doesn't necessarily mean that you're loose. Some of the conservative values that your society and your family put in you can actually serve you well. So there doesn't have to necessarily or always be a conflict having a foot in both camps.
Well, I always go like, yes, of course you have values, but because for a long time, Keith, I thought I will not be able to raise my kids in a proper way if there will not be religion attached, because that comes with the values. And then I figured, no, you can have values, strong values as well, without having that whole framework. I truly believe, and I always give that advice to any parent, if you have a free-spirited child, do not put it in a cage. If you put a free-spirited person in a cage, it's like, trying to contain someone. Just don't do that. Try to respect, try to understand why this person is different. For me, what I lucky was that I grew up on a farm, so I could find my peace and quiet within nature. I think that was extremely helpful, but the religion was very, very extremely stifling. But it produces great artists. Like most artists in the Netherlands, writers, they all had these stifling environments.
Now in time, of course, you've ended up in Australia. So where did you first settle when you arrived here?
The northern beaches in Sydney. So I had never been in Australia. They first put us in a hotel in the city.
Now, being a nature lover, you weren't tempted to go looking for koalas and Ayers Rock?
Well, we came at the airport, and I had tried to, my two oldest kids, they were 2 and 4, so I tried to prepare them as much as possible about kangaroos, koalas. We made books, and then we arrived at Sydney Airport, and my youngest son, he just goes like on me, just like with all the luggage, and he goes like, "Where are the koalas? I don't see any koalas." And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I remember they put us in a hotel in the city. I have family in a brother and sister in Melbourne, so we grow up with deer slides from living in Australia, which was the station wagon, the house, the kangaroos, all of that. So somehow I'm a bit naive. I don't do too much research because like, oh yeah, that's Australia. And then we arrived in Sydney and we went in the CBD, and I remember I was like, oh, well, what have we done? This is not at all how I imagined it. And I remember at night walking to the harbour front, the ferries go, and I really felt like the city was like this dark shadow. And then somebody said, just go check out Manly, because that was 2000, there's lots of young families there. And I remember hopping on the ferry, which was absolutely stunning and is still stunning, so when arriving at Manly Beach, walking out of there, and I never forget that feeling. And I was like, this is it. This is what I've been dreaming of. This is it. Everything else fell into place. Simple as that. This is it. And it always has been just like that.
But now you've ended up in Noosa. So how did that come about?
Well, it became too busy over there. We really got pushed out. I've been renting my entire life, been pushed out. Also for my son, here there was opportunity for surfing in high school to graduate in that. And it just had become too busy, and we had been on lots of trips. We always would be going up and down the coast, and the moment we would back at the outer borders of Sydney, and then someone would go, the honk, and I was like, oh my gosh, guys, people relax. I just could not take it anymore. Or bringing the kids to school, what would take 5 minutes, would take half an hour, and you saw like diversity, a bit what you mentioned here in Noosa, the diversity would just disappear, like people like me, and eventually I got pushed out. It just becomes very like uniform, bland, that type. But I'm very grateful that I got pushed out because I'm here.
Become a bit of a local identity, getting around town with your colourful knitwear around your ankles and often without shoes. Always a big smile and, giving everybody that you know and meet a hug and, very warm, engaging conversation. So you're kind of a little bit like what Noosa used to have many, many years ago. How are you finding fitting in here now that Noosa is being marketed mainly as a real estate destination and a lifestyle, and seems to be a greater emphasis on all of that rather than being being the laid-back coastal town that it once was?
I can't compare it, Keith, because I never lived in that time. The first time I came to Noosa was in 2002, and I fell in love with the energy of the national park. But I find where I live, the Noosa Junction, there's still lots has changed. There's still lots of like younger people. There's lots of Southern Americans who bring a new vibe and new cultures in. So yes, I can see that other side, but I also can see there's still this group of people. And I also believe that yes, Noosa has lots of people who live in extremely expensive houses, but many of these people also got accidentally rich, right? So many of them still have that old type of mindset. I find many people here still, I don't know, very friendly. When I came here from Sydney, and a woman was nice to me, I really had to get used to that. My first response was, that has what 20 years living in Sydney, even on the northern beaches had done. I was like, what do you want from me? And I was like, no, this person is actually nice. I still find, and maybe for you it's all different, but for me, I can only compare it where I'm coming from. I still find it very gentle what I find, and I feel like there's lots of little pockets of things. But I also see the extreme greed and all of that, what you describe, and that will destroy it. If we don't stop it, I will destroy it and will push the other people out, and there will be space for having these other people, what make Noosa.
So in the midst of all of that and what is going on around us and the growth that is happening, you've still found a place for yourself here in Noosa to be what you want to be, to live the way that you want?
Yes, for me, it's the first time that I actually live in a house. Some people call it a shed because it's all built of wood. It's built in the 70s, but I go like, for me, it's just the most stunning place because it's exactly the way it still is. And I got involved with NICA when I came here. I think there's so many artists that live here and in the hinterland, and there's so much things happening with music, live music. I feel like there's an amazing energy, and I only see that artistic energy from young people. I see young people really trying to bring back that type of community. I see that sipping through. So maybe because I only want to see that, I try to focus on that what is good, because I don't know how to stop the other things. It frustrates me, but I just don't know anymore how to do that unless going into politics or whatsoever.
Well, even politics won't stop it, because politics is mainly pushed around by the dollar as much as everything else. Fortunately, the almighty dollar and rules just about everything. But it's really pleasing to hear that you can still find energy here for the individual, for somebody who wants to live a nice, colourful, almost, I wouldn't say carefree, but still that laid-back coastal lifestyle. So it's still very much alive here in Noosa.
Yeah, well, I find like it's more alive than where I have come from. I think when I was living in 20 years on the northern beaches, I would run half of the Manly Arts Festival, do all these projects trying to create community. While when I'm coming here, I still find community very much existent and very much present. Every weekend there's something to do, a festival event, market, music, dance. We live in the junction, we have the J. Yeah, what a great facility. We have these coffee shops where people gather. For me, coffee shops are like the modern day churches where like people meet and converse, and it's still also we have that transient vibe because of the tourism, the same what was in Manly northern beaches. So it brings in lots of new people. Some of them stay here, and I only can be positive about that and trying to
Good to hear, because there is a good energy here. And if we allow the town to be swamped by developers or people who want to just turn it into a real estate market, we'll be in danger of losing that. And we have to keep that good energy going, because it brings so much life and it draws so many different people here, people like yourself who have a lot of spirit, a lot of artistic flair, and you have a lot to add to the town. We need different individuals, people with colour, with character, because we can't all be walking around talking about real estate all the time, thinking, oh, well, if I buy this and develop, I can make a profit. Yeah. And, too much of that stifles the spirit and creativity. So I
might actually go in that direction.
Well, everybody knows.
I learned next for me, for 4 years, I lived in the same street, and there's no one was in that house because resold. They bought a small block, 1.2 million, put on it 35,000. So in 1 year time, they made 3.5 million. And I was like, I'm living next door to that, renting. So, and I go like, yeah, but I want to have my house in the open house of Sunshine Coast so people can see that this house house is still standing and built and from wood, and it says all the appliances, and people go like, no, yours is next. And I go like, no, it can go either way. No, you're next. I go like, no, I will have it documented. But I don't know.
Well,
so that's the discrepancy. What I'm living next door, two bedroom units next to each other, 2.5 million, and they don't even look. They look out at power lines, right? It's just mad. It's just absolutely maddening, crazy.
Yeah, well, we all like to make a dollar. There's no doubt about that. But what we're talking about here is speculation to the point where houses are assets rather than homes.
Yeah, they're not.
We have to change that thinking.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
If we don't change that thinking, we're only going to continue to have rental stress, unavailability of affordable housing, and more homelessness. So, and if we just get swamped more and more with asset thinking, speculation, let's make a profit, it can just totally ruin the character of the town.
Yeah,
which Noosa is in danger of.
Yeah.
Just the same as a whole lot of other coastal towns right around Australia.
Yeah. And then the thing is, Keith, I haven't seen it all before. I've seen it on the whole Northern Beach. When I came in Manly, one after the other, the beautiful houses at the forefront got knocked down, and I just see the same. And it really frustrates me. You just go like, how do you stop this? How do you stop this greed? How do you stop that? So...
Yeah, well, there's no easy answer to that, unfortunately. And but let's go back to yourself, Angela. I think of you as a free-spirited person coming around town, getting around town, adding a lot of colour and vibrancy and personality. But I also see you as an artist. So I know that you're quite intrigued with AI, whereas a lot of people are a little bit afraid of it. But you see a positive side to it, and you would like to embrace it in the expression of yourself with what you're doing online with your Instagram posts and your other photography that you put up there. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I've always been very much, because I said before I went in environmental art, I was in digital media. So we were the first with the city Amsterdam putting pictures, before the World Wide Web, it was only text. So we were involved in that as artists. And, I always like the technology, and I think you need to be at the forefront of that. For me, it's be able to express. I feel for the first time, because I'm also, a mom, and you're limited, in your time. I also used to be involved with filmmaking, and for filmmaking you need this whole group of people, which is absolutely fascinating. But with AI, you now have the opportunity actually to start expressing yourself without that all available, and you see the first things coming up where you see that people can tell stories that actually within them. Before, if you were from an environmental or from a different side, you would have to hire photographers, a studio or whatever if you want to do a marketing campaign or would explain something like that. Now I can do that. I can learn to command the prompt, and I can create amazing images, and I've been exploring with that, and it's fascinating. I feel like every time it's just like, and also I find it very freeing. Because I already can see the book, How AI Saved My Life. I don't know. It just feels like, I can, what's inside of me, I can let that get out. And once it's out, it's gone. And you just go like, wow, that was good, to have that story told, as storytellers, we want to tell that, and now I'm be able to express that, and I find that fascinating.
Well, I'm really thrilled to hear that. I love that title that you just rolled out there. AI saved my life.
How AI saved my life. Yeah.
Most people these days are freaking out. They're going, "Oh no, AI is going to destroy my life." You're actually embracing it and putting a positive spin on it.
Yeah, because I can see it going into that direction, and I think it's the same. It's like with anything with technology. Technology, you can use it for negative, or you can use it, for positive. It's just like also technology has given us the share culture. Lots of sharing possibilities, connecting, all of that. And I really believe, and I read this article because I researched a bit in that about Deepak Chopra, who's one of the spiritual, he's wrote lots of spiritual books, and he actually went on the same thought pattern that how AI can get us all to a higher consciousness, and I see some artists, and I now can see, which is AI, what they're actually trying to express. You know, there's so many things living in people. So now we have tools where we can express, what's inside of us. Before, people could not do that. If you can't draw, how do you gonna express that? Maybe you can't write or. I'm very positive about that as a tool of expression.
It's wonderful to hear you say this, you know, like as you're getting around town barefooted with your knitted ankle warmers. Dear listeners, don't like this smiling, happy person who's likely to give you a hug off. She's really a thoroughly modern Angela who's embraced the brave new world, believing that AI can raise our consciousness, which is a wonderful way to wrap it up, our time together, Angela. But just one very, very quick question. Seeing as you are so enamored about AI and the digital world where you found a home to express yourself in your artistic bent, is there anybody in the AI or the computer or the digital world that you would like to sit down and have a cup of tea or a coffee with?
Yeah, well, you know, if I say Deepak Chopra, you know, because I have been reading lots of his book, I would like to see, but he's not the technology guru, but I would like to have a more deeper conversation how he sees that, how he would seize that on his way of thinking, not from an artistic perspective where I come from, but from a pure spiritual perspective.
What about Bill Gates? He, love him or hate him, he's a visionary and has brought much to the new electronic digital world. How would you approach or enjoy sitting down having a cup of tea?
Prefer the apple dude.
The one that's deceased?
Yes.
The one that's passed on? Oh, well, apparently.
AI him back into my world. Bill Gates, I'm never been that, I would not go branding, but people always say once you go Mac, you never go back, you know, and I was like, for a creative person, it's a different framework. And I also think that's where AI comes in with all this neurodiversity with children and as a tool to help them better technology to learn and to express themselves, which you already see now with many young children that they have tools which we never had available. We think that everybody thinks in a linear way. No, we don't. Some people think in sound, some people think in pictures, some people think circular. So I'm fascinated by that.
What about Elon Musk? Cup of coffee?
Oh yes, yes, absolutely. He's a fellow Cancerian, and like my youngest son is a Cancerian too, and we're the carers of the zodiac, and I think people not always seeing what he actually is trying to do at current. Absolutely. I put him on top of the list.
All right, and if he said to you, Angela, I've got a little silicon...
I make him some I knit him some leg warmers. I made gloves recently too.
Wrist warmers.
Needs to have bare-feeted conversation. I can see the picture. Actually, I'm going to AI it and visualize it.
He's running up there. He'd do it. He would take that from you, right? But if he said to you, like, here's a little computer chip to put in your mind or your brain, would you let him?
No.
But that's a bridge too far?
Yeah, I would have no one put anything in my body, right? For me, it's just using my body to using what is outside there. For me, I only see it, that outside, to train my own brain, to train myself to become a better human being. Nothing goes in here. I don't even put nothing on my skin or whatsoever. Nothing goes in here.
So, Elon, if you are listening, there's a free pair of knitted, colourful ankle warmers waiting for you in Noosa. And when you get here, just look around for Angela Van Boxtel. You can't miss her. She's getting around town, those ankle warmers, no shoes, blonde hair, tucked in underneath her baseball cap, big smile, and she's likely to give you a hug. I mean, man, what more of an invitation could you want than that to come here to Noosa? Angela, look, it's been great to talk with you today. We've covered quite a bit of your thoughts in your life. It's been fascinating. Thanks for the time together.
Thanks for having me, Keith.